Meet Mike Mentzer. He was one of the most explosive and honestly one of the most controversial figures in the entire history of fitness. This guy was a champion bodybuilder who took one look at the whole fitness world, the magazines, the experts, the other champs, and basically said, "You're all wrong." He wasn't just some critic, he was a full-blown revolutionary. And this quote, this is everything. It's the key to his whole philosophy. He truly believed that almost everything we're told, especially when it comes to building muscle, is complete and utter nonsense. His whole message was so simple. Don't just blindly trust what you hear. You've got to verify it for yourself. And come on, let's be real, we've all felt this, right? What Mentzer called that agonizing confusion. One magazine says you need 20 sets per body part. The next says you only need 5. One guru tells you to train 6 days a week, and another swears that's the fastest way to just burn out. It's absolutely maddening. Now, here's where Mentzer drops the bomb. This was his radical idea. What if building muscle isn't just some big guessing game? What if it's a science, like physics or chemistry? Because if it is a science, he argued, then there can only be one correct theory, one right way to do it. Okay, so let's get into it, because if you're going to make claims that are this bold, you better have the credentials to back it up. So who was this guy, Mike Mentzer? Well, he wasn't some theorist hiding in a lab. No, he was one of the best bodybuilders on the entire planet. I mean, just look at this track record. Mr. America? Check. Mr. Universe with a perfect score. That's a feat that has never, ever been repeated. He even won his division at the Mr. Olympia, which is basically the Super Bowl of bodybuilding. This man climbed to the absolute top of the mountain, a mountain he was about to blow up. So, after proving he could walk the walk on stage, Mentzer decided it was time to prove his theory in the gym. He saw everybody following this more is better idea, and to him, it was completely illogical. He wanted to replace all that chaos with a system based on pure, simple reason. This quote just nails the problem he was trying to fix. He saw his friends, his competitors, just blindly following these insane workout routines, wasting thousands of hours on what he called a blind, non-theoretical approach, and they never once stopped to ask the most important question: why? Why are we doing this? In this analogy he used, it's just brilliant. It perfectly illustrates his point. He'd ask people, who has bigger, more muscular legs? A sprinter or a long-distance marathon runner? The answer is obvious, right? It's the sprinter, the one who goes all out with maximum intensity but for a very short time. So Mentzer would say, why on earth would building muscle on the rest of your body be any different? So his theory, high-intensity training, all boil down to these 3 absolutely non-negotiable principles. First, intensity. He said intensity is the only thing that actually triggers muscle growth, so every single set has to be taken to total failure. Second, brevity. Because that kind of intensity is so brutal, your workouts have to be incredibly short. And third, infrequency. Growth doesn't happen in the gym. It happens when you're resting, so you have to work out way less often than you think. So Mentzer had his theory, right? But there was one event that would cement his don't trust philosophy forever. This was the moment where all his suspicions about the bodybuilding world came crashing down into a harsh, undeniable reality. This is how he talked about the 1980 Mr. Olympia. To him, this wasn't just some shady contest. It was a deep moral awakening. It was the moment that convinced him that the entire system he was a part of was rotten to the core. So here's the story. In '79, Mentzer was on top of the world, a huge favorite to win the whole thing in 1980. But then, Arnold Schwarzenegger makes this surprise, last-minute comeback. And even though most people thought he wasn't in his best shape, Arnold was declared the winner. Mentzer, he placed a shocking 5th. He was so disgusted, so convinced the whole thing was rigged, he retired on the spot. At 29 years old, he just refused to be part of a game he couldn't trust. So, having completely rejected the establishment, Mentzer went all in on his own principles. This is the verify part of his philosophy. He was on a mission to prove, with cold, hard results, that his crazy-sounding method wasn't just valid, it was actually better. And this was his most radical idea of all. How many sets does it really take to make a muscle grow? Think about it. Most people were doing 20, 30 sets. Mentzer's answer? 1. Just one single, all-out set taken to absolute, momentary failure. He said anything more than that isn't just a waste of time, it's actively working against you. It's overtraining. His logic was so simple, and to him, it was just undeniable. He said, look, we're looking for the minimum amount of work needed to kickstart growth. So the only logical place to start your experiment is with one set. And only if that one set does absolutely nothing, he argued. Only then do you have any scientific reason to even try two. So you're probably wondering, did any of this actually work? Well, let's look at one of his most famous clients. This number, 38 pounds, is the amount of solid muscle that client gained in just 4 months after switching to Mentzer's system. The story is just incredible. This guy from Switzerland had been slaving away in the gym for years with almost no results to show for it. Mentzer puts him on this completely new program. And in only 4 months, with workouts that were just 20 minutes long, the guy completely transformed. He gained 38 pounds of muscle and literally tripled his leg strength. This was the proof. This was the verification Mentzer had been looking for. But you gotta understand, for Mike Mentzer, this was never just about getting bigger muscles. His whole life's mission was about bringing logic, reason, and critical thinking to a world that he felt was just full of dogma, tradition, and what he called anti-rational thinking. He was obsessed with definitions, and this was one of his favorites. See, to him, a theory wasn't some vague guess. It was a roadmap. It was the difference between NASA sending a man to the moon because they understood the principles of physics and a bodybuilder just randomly picking a workout from a magazine and hoping for the best. And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly sums up his entire worldview. People would always ask him, Mike, how can all the other famous bodybuilders be wrong? And this was his answer. Just because a million people believe something doesn't make it true. Just because everyone's doing it doesn't make it right. You have to question it all. Don't trust, verify. And really, that's the true legacy of Mike Mentzer. He challenges all of us to take that same ruthless logic and apply it to our own lives. It doesn't matter if it's in the gym, at our jobs, or just our personal beliefs. He forces us to stop and ask, what am I accepting as true just because everyone else says it is? And what amazing things could happen if I actually dared to question it?